Hey guys, so if you saw my previous video about the Relic of the Pact one, then I got some good news because the skill is actually very satisfying to play. It is difficult to build around it, but it is very satisfying to play. In fact, it's so satisfying to play, at least for me, that for the first time ever, I'm gonna be re-rolling the build into a different version of this, of this build. And I'm gonna be attempting to build pure live build. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about this build that I did. I'm not gonna talk about everything how it works because the topic about the wand, how everything works about the wand is pretty complicated. So I highly suggest you to watch my previous video about specifically about this wand. There is one thing that I made a small mistake talking about, and that is Ivory Tower. So the Ivory Tower is actually a bit better than I expected because I'm gonna add clips. I guess fooled myself by watching the replay on slow motion. So the thing that I said that Ivory Tower is not really good because it does not heal your energy shield, current energy shield, but in fact it kind of does. A quick explanation: if you have, let's say, 50% of energy shield at the moment, like you lost 50% and you only have 50%, let's say, when you use Ivory Tower and gain, let's say, 10,000 energy shield, you're still gonna have 50% of your new energy shield pool. So in a sense, it does heal your current energy shield, but it kind of tries to maintain the same. Well, it does maintain the same energy shield percentage. So Ivory Tower may be more viable than I expected. So I decided to build a hybrid live, yes, and not using Chevron's wrapping. I decided to go with the Coruscating Elixir. And I knew that it's gonna be annoying because if you don't have Coruscating Elixir, and I'm gonna show you a funny rip. If you don't have it and you step on some decent ground and you don't have life, you just die, just instantly. Why not Chevron's wrapping? Because my current body armor gives so much more life and so much more resistances, which I absolutely needed. So much more life, so much more resistances, and energy shield. This is Chieftain converting physical damage to fire. It's actually 90% conversion. And I don't want 100% conversion, don't want to take Avatar of Fire because I also have Elemental Equilibrium. So this build has quite a lot of conditional things. Every 10 seconds I gain 4-second buff from Chieftain, which basically doubles my damage. I think it's sort of like doubles, because it gives 100% of physical damage as extra fire. Then I also have fire exposure coming from the Wave of Conviction. I also have Combustion, which is also linked to Wave of Conviction. So I need to ignite, I need to use Wave of Conviction, I also need to use Stormbrand with very high cast speed to be able to keep up with my Blood Sacrament skill and resetting EE after every hit, which may not synchronize very well, so it's a bit sketchy sometimes. Now, how I'm getting this AoE and how it feels this move. So initially I planned for 5 ticks. Ticks are basically 5 stages. And I was planning to reserve almost close to 20% per tick, so with 5 ticks it would reserve almost 100%. But that did not feel smooth, so I decided to switch to 3 ticks, which felt smoother, but it still did not feel just right. So then I switched to 2 ticks, and the ticks, basically 1 tick reserves 49.89% of my life. So 2 ticks put me at basically almost 99% of, well, actually over 99% of my HP. So I'm reserving as much as possible, and the more you reserve, the more AoE you're gonna get. You're gonna get flat AoE, which is gonna get multiplied by your other increases in the area of effect. So I'm getting massive AoE, as much as I can from this. And in most of the clips I was also using concentrated effect, but I'm gonna add some clips where I was using Awaken increased area of effect, which was like 80 chaos, but I don't feel like I needed it. Later on, once I started pushing it to higher red tier maps, I definitely wanted more damage, so I switched to Conk effect, and the AoE still felt decent. I believe with Conk effect, concentrated effect, I have 45 units radius, which to me felt very decent. I could even probably drop to like 40 units radius and it would still feel fine. But okay, so the build, as you can tell, I only have 4.4 thousand energy shield. Actually, only in the last level I gained 400 energy shield. Before then, I was running the 400 energy shield. And basically no life, because my life just always is, well, as close as possible to 0. And I am considered on low life, by the way. And in some clips you're gonna see that I was running with Petrified Blood, and I actually didn't realize that Petrified Blood only works with life and not energy shield. So Petrified Blood was replaced later with Skitterbots for more damage. So running with 4000 energy shield was quite scary. It was scary, but it wasn't that bad actually. I was somehow managing to clear red tier map ultimatums. I did Phoenix, but that was very sketchy, and I think I died once or twice. This build in particular is not good for bossing, but map clear feels so good. I want to play this skill again. And by the way, I'm also using, I am using Wide Herald effect, and that is from Herald of Ash. Herald of Ash helps with the clear speed as well. Now, balancing this build was kind of tricky because I am using Glimpse of Chaos, and this helmet makes it pretty difficult to cap my resistances, especially because I'm also using so many uniques. Initially I was playing with the Zelf Oath and I was using Shaper's Touch. With Shaper's Touch I would have more energy shield, but I'm actually not really stacking strength. As you can see, I only have 400 strength, and it still is giving me an additional almost 400 ES over the 100 ES Demon Stitcher. So I was running with the Zelf Oath and these gloves, but it just did not feel safe. The regen, I don't really have much regen, and even having a bit more ES did not feel fine because I just don't have enough regen. I recover 4% of my energy shield when I block with the shield. Since I'm not really getting that much regen, I decided to switch to the Demon Stitcher, and Demon Stitcher sacrifices 5% of your life to gain that much energy shield. So if I sacrifice 5% of my 6.8k HP, that will recover 342 energy shield. But I'm not entirely sure. I'm almost always below 100 life remaining because I just, like, look, it's not really regenerating fast enough. So I'm not sure if it's actually sacrificing the remaining, or does it still count from your maximum life somehow, but is unable to kill you, so it still drains as much as it can, but still gives you full bonus. It does feel like it's healing my energy shield by like 300, which isn't much. Like, that's another thing why you want 2 ticks or even 1 tick, because if you got like 5 ticks, if it takes let's say this long to cast the skill, then Demon Stitcher is not as effective because you want to spam it as much as possible to benefit from this recovery. Demon Stitcher may be good, maybe not, I'm still unsure. I don't know a better way of recovering energy shield right now, and also the more maximum life you get, the more efficient this recovery is gonna be. There are many different like ideas floating around. I'm not gonna go over all of them because it would take forever, and I would probably still forget something and people would still ask about that. Now I'm gonna talk about the rest of my build, but I'm gonna assume that you watched my previous video, or at least know how this Relic of the Pact work. I'm gonna mention a couple more things when talking about path building, but I'm gonna assume that you know sort of how it works already. So how I'm achieving the 49.89% of my reservation per tick, using 2 Essence Worm, using Supreme Ego, which allows me to only use 1 permanent aura that affects me. Skitterbots is also an aura, but it does not affect me, so it still allows me to use Skitterbots. And my main aura is the Discipline because I'm ES. So 2 Essence Worm, Supreme Ego, and then in the one I have Life Tap, which does not get activated when you use it, so you need some other skill like Steel Skin linked to Life Tap to activate the Life Tap. Then the skill will get the buff from the Life Tap support, just like Inspiration. Then I got level 1 Arrogance, because the higher level Arrogance is, the lower the reservation multiplier is gonna be, and you want higher reservation multiplier. While playing this, you may actually even want to try to use different variations. Maybe you're gonna want like level 20 or 21 Arrogance depending on your needs and your build. And then the third one is Concentrated Effect, which is 140 reservation. So 200 reservation, 220 and 140% reservation. You can also use there's a helmet which increases reservation. So like I said, you can try to min-max to your needs, but this is what I'm using. The helmet, with this, nearby enemies have malediction, and malediction basically is not the one from the occultist. It's just the debuff on enemies. It makes enemies do 10% reduced damage and take 10% increased damage. So it's a slight mitigation for me, and a small damage increase for me. And you specifically want increase maximum life as close as possible to 40%. Ideally, I would not want mana at all. You can actually corrupt this, and you can actually keep corrupting this helmet, and it will change until a certain point where it would just break or change into completely different item. Now, body armor, you want big energy shield and big life, and also to cover your resistances. You also want gain maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. The amulet, dexterity was a bit of an issue. That's why you see that I used attribute catalyst on this one, but I needed dexterity. You also want big life, energy shield, cast speed. I was trying to get as much cast speed as possible, because initially I went with the 3 ticks, but once I got to 2 ticks, I think I have too much cast speed now, especially with the demon stitcher giving me another 19%. You may not need cast speed, but you want life, energy shield, resistances, and then spell damage. Maybe there are many things, but minimum frenzy charge also gives more damage and cast speed, and that helps as well. Shield, life, cast speed, spell damage, resistances, energy shield of course, and then energy shield when you block. However, since it is based on my energy shield, I don't really recover that much. I think I recover around 170, 175 energy shield when I block, so it's not really big. But then again, when you combine this with the demon stitcher, if I block and cast spells, I'm kind of recovering around 500 ES, something like that. Then as 2 essence worms, and in the essence worms I got skitterbots and discipline, so they do not reserve any mana. Demon stitcher, like I said, you want the high life and cast speed of course. You can also get corrupted for like 70 KS with the elemental weakness. Now belt, I also try to get as much life, a bit of energy shield, a bit of resistances, and crafted this regen 150 energy shield per second while rare or unique enemies nearby. So when you combine these sources, that's kind of how I'm sustaining myself. I do also have, forgot to mention, I do have spell leech anointment on the amulet, which isn't ideal because I would rather get damage, but I needed more survivability. Boots, nothing special, just as much energy shield as possible, life, movement speed, of course, and resistances. And obviously you're gonna want Coruscating Elixir. Now, other support gems, I am using Herald of Ash, which is currently linked with Enlighten and Burning Damage and Enhance, but you don't need Burning Damage, you don't need Enhance, you can just use Herald of Ash somewhere. But since I had open empty support gems, I may as well add these. In the body armor, I actually have Wave of Conviction linked with Combustion. Then it also has Hexdash with Flammability and Tempest Shield. So even if I block, it will proc Tempest Shield and it will curse enemies with the Flammability. Or if I cast Wave of Conviction, it will also apply Combustion while igniting and also apply Flammability. In the gloves, I got cast damage taken linked with Blind, Bow Lighting, and Spirit Offering. Spirit Offering because porcupines just absolutely destroy me. Nothing else destroys me as much as porcupines. So Spirit Offering destroys the corpses and destroys flying projectiles from after they die. So that helps. And Lighting with Blind is also a bit of defensive layer. In the shield I have Steel Skin linked with Flame Dash and Life Tap. So both my Flame Dash and Steel Skin, which is on the left click, so I don't need to think it. It's gonna activate as soon as it can. And that's how I maintain my Life Tap buff. Which is required for the life tap support gem inside the van. In boots I got Stormbrand, increased critical strike chance, faster casting, and then Arcane Surge. So I dropped this, again Arcane Surge, which does give me more damage and cast speed, but also Stormbrand needs to have faster casting to hit frequently enough so that after every hit of my Blood Sacrament it would reset Elemental Equilibrium. So from the passive skill tree, this is Chieftain. You get insane damage from this one. Then I got the cover enemies in Ash, Strength, and more Leech. Then I went with this one to kind of help with my resistances. And then finally went with this one. But you can actually also go with this, if you also want to generate endurance charges somehow, which you could use with the enduring cry, but it's not instant, so I don't know if it's worth it. Would be a bit tanker. I just did not want to mess with the enduring cry. On the jewels, I do have a cheap watcher side. This is for discipline watcher side. I need a spell block because my other defensive layer is blocking. I don't have Rumin's Concoction, so I don't have cap block. It still mitigates some damage when I block, so it's still some defensive layer. And on jewels, on most of the jewels, you want life, gas speed, energy shield, something like that. Or you could go with spell damage, you could go with global physical damage. You don't want flat damage. If you get flat damage from our beast jewels, then it's gonna mess up elemental equilibrium. Even if you're getting flat physical damage, it's still gonna be converted to fire, and that's gonna mess up elemental equilibrium. I also got to... It looks kind of funny, but I took this node just to get energy from North, which does give flat energy shield, and it does give quite a lot. It actually gives around 400 energy shield. And very important thing, unwavering stance. You don't want to get stunned. So you do want unwavering stance, and you do want to get these. Leveling may be difficult, but I leveled from level 40, and I talked about that in my previous video. Basically, that was my leveling setup. The usual gold rim, these gloves for speed, and these boots. And then at level 40, I added Replica Zeris Foible for big life and increased life recovery rate. And then the Oak Shield, level 40. At low life, you're getting an extra 3% life regen, which do get boosted by this life recovery rate. So it was actually pretty cool setup for leveling, and it did feel pretty decent all the way until Act 10. And of course, once you start traveling further, I think I got Elemental Equilibrium the latest. Before that, I went through the Witch area, through the AoE area, got the Pain Attunement, then grabbed these Life plus Energy Shield nodes because you're stacking both, and it was working pretty well. The single target was even decent until a certain point, but the build is difficult to build around, and also I don't pay attention to my HP. I had a lot of people saying that they get stressed out looking at my HP, but I don't look at it. I just look at my health bar above my head, and I look only at energy shield, because it doesn't matter how much life I got, because if I have a Coruscating Elixir active, then I only need to worry about my energy shield, because CS damage cannot bypass it. I'm gonna put in video description a path of building import code, so you can import the build and check it out and try to copy it. I talked about this in my first video as well, but because I'm reserving 49.89%, since you cannot reserve more than 100% of your life, you can only enter 2 stages. So basically you look how much you reserve per tick and figure out how many stages that's gonna be. In my case it's 2, and that's gonna be my average hit damage, but then you need to multiply that by your gas time, so which is 0.14 seconds, but that's for 1 tick, and I do need 2 ticks, 2 stages for the full damage. So you multiply this gas time by your stages, which is gonna be 0.28, and then you divide 1 by 0.28. That's gonna be how many times this is gonna go off per second. In my case it's 3.5 times. So you basically multiply this by your average hit damage, and that's going to be over 4 million DPS. But remember that this is a Chieftain, and it's getting big damage from this one, and this is with all the buffs. While I'm on low life, while I got life tap, I have blocked recently, the enemies are exposed to fire and ignited, covered in ash with elemental equilibrium. So the real damage is not going to be 4 million, it's going to be lower. But the damage felt fine, it just I could not survive enough. So for that reason I'm gonna be remaking this build with Slayer. The Slayer looks kind of similar, but it's gonna be pure physical. It's gonna be a bit more expensive, and it's gonna have massive leech. And I will probably die often because I will only have around 1.4 thousand life. Because the rest of the life is gonna be reserved. So if you don't want to miss my second version with Slayer, be sure to subscribe, and for now thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.